What's going on, guys? Duke Basketball Corner Podcast back again. I am your host, Adam Comero, as always. And this is going to be a different type of episode with the NCAA Tournament, March Madness going on. I'll give you the in-depth Duke pod that you're looking for anyone else who's not even a Duke fan. I'm going to go way into that. Tons of depth, tons of context, but it's not March if it's not just kind of having fun, looking at some brackets, going over some crazy narratives. Basically everything I don't do during the season with Duke, I think is just really fun and cool to do with the bracket before the tourney starts, because let's be honest, nobody knows what the heck is going to happen. So let's just have fun with it. And I have given the invite on the pod. I gave it 2 episodes ago and last episode for just anyone who wants to come on, maybe for a segment or longer if the chemistry is right. And I have Jordan Livingston. He reached out to me. It's that easy for anyone who is interested. And he's gonna help me go over some of the storylines about this bracket, especially focusing on the East and just kind of how we feel about different players, different teams. It'll be a good time with obviously extra focus paid to Duke's possible path and the teams they might be facing. But first of all, let me just introduce Jordan. Thanks so much for joining me. If you're willing, just maybe give a couple words about yourself and your Duke fanhood.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Adam. I really look forward to us talking about the tournament. Everybody's really excited, including myself. I reached out to you because I've done some writing before on a blog site that really didn't go anywhere. So I stopped writing, but I've always had a passion for the game, especially Duke basketball. Being from North Carolina, I was raised a Duke fan, always will be a Duke fan. My kids will be Duke fans. And what's really, I guess, been a passion of mine is learning about Duke basketball beyond the basic narratives that get shoved down our throats by ESPN. And that's how I came to know about you and your podcast, trying to be more educated about Duke basketball. So I'm excited to talk ball. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Hill-to-Leitner.
That's a good name. How awkward would it be if, let's say, your kids, let's say you have a boy, he is maybe 12 years old, just getting into the game, he's like, Daddy, I like North Carolina. What would your reaction be?
Well, I can't even fathom having a kid right now, Adam. But even if that's my worst nightmare. I can guarantee you I would have failed as a father.
Daddy, my favorite player is Tyler Hansbrough.
Oh, God. We're going to have to call up G and talk some sense into him.
You know what the crazy thing is? They did a podcast together. I don't even think many people.
That's right.
Yeah, it was like really short. It only went for like a couple months. I don't even think I ever listened to an episode, but it was just the most random thing. I couldn't believe it was happening. I told one person who's a Duke fan, and they almost like fainted. It's kind of funny how that, I don't even know how that ended up together.
I guess, as players, they get old and get over stuff. I know those guys hated each other. I mean, I hated that team. I hated Tyler Hansbrough just because he was so good as soon as he came to Carolina. And it was hilarious. Have you ever seen the video of him trying to read Chicken Little to some kids?
No.
You need to look that up on YouTube. It basically, if you want to learn more about kind of the academic scandal with UNC, that's all you need to watch.
Ooh, we're already stepping into those boundaries. All right, so the bracket came out, and is there anything that immediately, I guess we'll start out, any quick thing non-Duke related that caught your eye in terms of maybe teams that got in, where like location, anything bracketology related, I guess?
Yeah, it was 3 things for me. It was 1, NC State not even being in the first 4 out. I don't necessarily know how I feel about that, but I know that a lot of NC State fans are upset. Belmont was in, which I'm glad they're in necessarily, but their best win was Lipscomb, which Lipscomb's a good team. They're playing in the NIT. We'll see how NC State and Lipscomb play against each other possibly this next game. But it's interesting to me because I think a lot of their fans thought that they were probably going to be in, and they weren't even one of the first four out.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually we couldn't quite work out our schedule, but Lauren Brownlow, ACC reporter, I was going to have her on, and she takes more crap from NC State fans than I've ever seen in my life. Like, she is like the go-to on Twitter for NC State fans just to go ballistic at, and I don't know how she stays sane. But she handles it. I mean, I just wanted to have her on, basically just to ask her NC State questions because it's really, I mean, that's like popcorn stuff right there. Just watching Lauren deal with NC State fans, and I'm not mocking anyone. I don't think it's a big deal because look, NC State has countless opportunities to earn ACC victories. If they don't play non-conference, if they don't play a hard non-conference schedule, that's their deal. But the mid-majors, they don't have opportunities. They're trying to play up. So if NC State refuses to do that, I don't know all the details. I just think I've mocked before in terms of everyone every year says it's the worst bubble ever. This year, it was horrible. So if you're one of those final teams, man, I don't know. And you can say, oh, I'm a Duke fan. I know they're always going to get in. Well, as crazy as most people would find this to be, I grew up in Maryland. Maryland is my second team. So, I caught a lot of stuff growing up about that. But, yeah, Maryland lives on the bubble. They are always on the bubble. And you know what? If they make it, fine. If they don't, I understand. So I just think if you're that close and you're a high major, I mean, you look at the schedule, you play it, and you see how many opportunities. And if you're like, oh, but this team, if you're comparing yourself to like one of those final teams, chances are you should have just won a couple more games and then taken that weight off, or just not scored 24 points versus Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the point here, and I think Kevin Keatts even came out and said that it's their fault. You know, they should have won more games. But I do see the strength of schedule argument, even though they played some pretty crappy teams early on in the season. I mean, their non-conference strength of schedule was absolutely horrid. They still play in the ACC, so their strength of schedule is going to be pretty tough. They don't necessarily need to schedule those non-conference difficult games. But regardless, I wouldn't really see them going far in the tournament. Even if they were in, just thought it was pretty surprising that they weren't even mentioned in the show at all.
I mean, as you just said, I don't think they would go far, but who knows? I mean, like Syracuse, they were in the first four, and they got in all those zone. I think teams not having long to prepare for the zone can help there. I mean, who knows? You never know. I mean, these single game elimination, 6 rounds, you never know what's going to happen. So, I mean, these are 18 to 22-year-olds. Somebody, they get in a fight with their girlfriend, they get mad, they might have a crappy game. You just never know. So, I mean, let's say NC State did get in, they advanced to the Elite Eight. Does that mean they deserved it? I don't know. I mean, I remember like way back, like 5 years ago, UCLA, there's no way. Everything about their record and schedule and everything said they didn't deserve to be in. But they did get in, and they got to the Sweet 16. So people were saying, see, I told you they deserved it. That doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's what you did during the season. Like, the result of the tournament isn't a referendum or whatever on whether you got in. So I don't know. I'm not a big bracketology guy, and it's not because of anything Duke related. It's just there's plenty of opportunities for high major teams to get in.
Yeah, and some of the other storylines, I mean, I think we've all heard Michigan State and Michigan. It kind of sucks for Duke. One of the best, probably the best 2 seed is in the number 1 overall seeds region. And I think Michigan State beat Michigan 3 times to win the Big Ten championship. And apparently that's their reward, is having to play against Duke. But apparently, according to the NCAA, it's all about location. And so because Michigan State had a higher seed, they were given the closer location, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. I mean, ultimately, who knows about, if the whole quotation amateurism kind of thing in it. But I think for colleges, you want to be in the closer uh, stadium, right?
I don't know. I mean, that's the same kind of thing for me. I mean, what are the percentages that they're going to meet in the Elite Eight? I mean, that's
True.
the thing. Like Duke, they were one seeds, I think, like 9 out of 10 years, something like 1998 to 2006. Like, and they obviously won it all in 2001, 2000, and 2004. They got to the Final Four. 99, they got to the championship. I think every other year they lost in the Sweet 16. So that was like 3 out of 9 years or something that they made it to the Elite Eight. I mean, you just never know. So I think when it's that far in advance, I understand what you mean. But hey, how come I didn't hear all this? Maybe, I don't know, maybe I was tone deaf at the time. And once it occurred, once the result happened, yes. But beforehand, how much did you hear about Duke, South Carolina, playing in South Carolina's backyard? I didn't. I was like, I mean, this is like such a douche move. I'll name drop. I was talking to Mike DeCourcy on DM, and he was like, "Oh, it's no, people were making a big deal." I'm like, "Only when the result happened." And he's like, "No, all the time." I'm like, I don't know. I didn't see it, so I think it's very interesting how
People still don't make a big deal about it, I don't think, because Duke's supposed to be the team that gets the cakewalk each year. You know, that's the narrative, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what people want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the that really plays. I heard a lot of Tennessee fans, crying about that because they're in their second round matchup. They might have to play Cincinnati in Columbus, Ohio.
There you go. That should be the bigger deal than Michigan State, in my opinion. That should be a much bigger. I did not realize that. That's way more. That's a much bigger deal.
See, I don't mean. I think it's a bigger deal when the lower seeded team, and this I'm talking about Cincinnati, is in a home kind of environment, which it won't be, but unless when it's the higher seeded team kind of having a little bit of an edge, because ultimately the higher seeded team should advance, and so similarities between that potential situation and Duke, South Carolina, but I mean, there's a lot of arguments to it. I mean, Tennessee got a 2 seed. They could have had a 1 seed if they would have won in Nashville, which is virtually a home game, if they would have won the SEC championship. So I think it's just ultimately you're going to have to win those games. And, I felt bad when Duke, kind of got dominated by South Carolina that year in South Carolina. But, a lot of those fans were North Carolina fans just rooting against Duke too. So.
Was that, you said you had 3. Was that 3 or was that 2?
Yeah, that was really all that I saw on kind of seeds and kind of debate regarding who's in and where they're playing. Did you see anything else?
Well, I will say with Duke, in South Carolina, I mean, when I first saw South Carolina, they kind of brought back nightmares, but obviously it is not the same place. Trying to find where exactly I have it written. It is it's Columbia instead of, I think it's Greenville is where they played 2017, and so that's 90 minutes away, and it's also 90 minutes away from where Zion is from.
That's right.
So yeah, I don't think there's going to be an issue getting.
They're not playing Wofford, right?
No. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be an issue having people wondering whether people are going to be rooting for Duke or against Duke, because Zion is going to bring his own circus. So and now that he's back in not his hometown but his home state, I mean, I think it's going to be Zion Fest. I think a bold statement. I don't think people are going to be coming to watch Virginia.
Good, yeah.
But and if anyone, Virginia is playing the same place.
I don't want to deviate, but did you see the North Carolina fan in Charlotte when Zion did a dunk, and it was the guy was like right under the basket, and he was like, he jumped up with like both hands like celebrating Zion's dunk. And it wasn't against Carolina. I think it was against Florida State maybe. But it was pretty funny. That. Yeah, I think it sums up a lot. Yeah.
Zion can bring out the kid in all of us. I mean, he does some wild stuff, and it's funny because I mean you watched his highlights I watched his highlights when he was in high school, and I was just like, oh, this is another dunk kind of random mixtape type of thing. And he's just such a much better basketball player, smarter basketball player. I've gone over this at length, and he's so much more than a dunker. So I think Duke fans should know how lucky they are to have him at play for the Blue Devils for a year, even if it's just one. Well, it will be just one. Yeah, we should appreciate the time we have. And in terms of anything else, Lavelle Moten. Let's start out with him. He said before the selection show, he said some coaches will say we'll take on anyone, we'll be ready, but I don't want any part of playing Duke. Us playing against Zion would be like my 6-year-old son playing against me. So what do? If he wins he's in a playing game against North Dakota State. The winner gets Duke. That is just cruel. I don't know how they could do that with him. At the same time, I shouldn't be laughing, but I am.
Yeah, Durham on Durham, right?
Yeah, so other stuff. I mean, it's interesting because there's obviously everyone's going to love to find the storylines, and sometimes it's easy to think, oh, they make these storylines on purpose. Sometimes it could be random. There is the Mike Krzyzewski, Johnny Dawkins potential showdown in the second round if UCF wins, and everyone knows how much Coach K does not like to face his former players and former assistant coaches. He avoids that as much as possible, so that would be interesting. There's also some revenge games. I had spoken about that before in terms of possible revenge games, and so we're going to get potential second round VCU. That was when Duke was in a rebuild. 2007, Eric Maynor hit a game winner against Duke, 11-6 upset. There is Louisville. That's who Duke lost to in 2013. I mentioned everyone's like, oh, no, they beat them during the regular season. I'm just talking about the NCAA tournament. And that is a game. That was
rough, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a game many remember for Kevin Ware. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't look it up. It's not fun. And then LSU. Louisville would be Elite Eight. LSU would also be Elite Eight. They ended with, was it Big Baby Davis? They had Tyrus Thomas. Tyrus Thomas. And then my boy, this is going to kill me because I'm a Wizards fan, a very depressed Wizards fan all the time, but I am a Wizards fan. I think he plays for the Kings now. I don't know, but he guarded J.J. Redick in just incredible length and really made it tough on Redick. So he ended Redick's career, Sheldon Williams, Sean Dockery, and Lee Malchione. So it'd be nice to get some revenge there. And then there is the regular season Virginia Tech, which they didn't have Justin Robinson. Duke didn't have Zion. And it is, what is that, like the third straight loss in Blacksburg, I believe. I know it was, I think Duke won in overtime in 2015, didn't play in 16, lost in 17,
yeah,
lost
I thought
in
it was
18,
something like
and
3
lost.
out of 4 years.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, they have Duke's number there. So it'd be nice to kind of see both teams at full strength because right now there isn't too many teams that Duke is actually, they're on a losing streak against. NCAA tournament or regular season. Virginia Tech is one of them. Actually, I think Arizona. The Duke's lost like 2 in a row. Coach K has a losing record versus Sean Miller. There's also 3 straight against Kansas, but there's not too many going on right now. I think that's pretty much the basic narratives that are going on there. If you're looking at the East region, it's funny because right before I was saying you got to feel confident about Duke versus any team. But I gave a list of teams that it wouldn't be optimal matchups, and they were all defense first, slow, grinding teams, and then basically they were all just stuck in Duke's bracket. So again, I'm not saying that they're going to beat Duke. It's not going to be beautiful basketball, and we're going to need Duke to basically speed up every team, which is another thing that Zion allowed them to do. That when they didn't have Zion, they really struggled with. If you look at the tempo with and without Zion against their opponent, it really shows. So that is something we can feel confident about them being able to speed up teams because I mean, VCU is not a slow team, but here we go. Let me bring up. All right, but UCF slow defense first. Mississippi State kind of I would say they are in the middle ground of that, where Quindary Weatherspoon, he can shoot the lights out. Everything they do well on defense, they don't do well on offense though. Like they offensive rebound well, but they give up offensive rebounds. They turn you over, but then you can turn them over. And I mean, those two things, if you give up offensive rebounds and you turn the ball over, I don't care what you do on offense, Duke is just going to eat you alive. So I would rather see them than Liberty, aka Virginia Light. Like I'm not having any Liberty, and that's not. Maybe it's an insult. It's not. No, it's not. Who are they coached by? Do you know who they're coached by? I think it's like an ex-Tony Bennett assistant.
I don't know who Liberty's coached by. I don't have any notes on Liberty's team at all.
All you should know is that Seth Curry wanted no part of them anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But, I mean, with them, they really are Virginia Light. I mean, they are just very, very slow pack line. And Duke versus the pack line, they obviously found a way against Virginia with just a ridiculous shooting game. The second one, which is just, you can't expect that. And the first one, it was just basically Zion and RJ just busting in and just being simply better athletes. Just kind of, I've never seen a team not be able to beat the pack line, but individuals beat the pack line like they did. And they hit a bunch of mid-ranges that game. So mid-range is like the analytics guy's nightmare. And they were on fire from mid-range, so that's another one you can't expect. And it was just two games where Virginia played well enough to beat 99% of teams, but just not Duke. So, honestly, I was almost as impressed by Virginia as I was by Duke in those games, just because Duke played so well and they played so out of their element. But, yeah, so basically, and then Louisville, until they basically wet themselves when Duke started with the zone press, they used the pack line. That's something we're going to see a lot from Chris Mack. He used that a lot at Xavier. And Duke, they do struggle against the pack line at times. So, yeah, that's something to keep in mind when they play Liberty, if they play Liberty. And if Liberty beats Mississippi State, that would be a 12-5 upset if anyone's looking for it. Because, hey, if you're a team that hasn't faced that type of slow pack line team, it's like facing Cuse for the first time. It's just not something you would expect. Let's see, is there any games that you want to focus on from Duke's top half of the East to start out with? I kind of already went into Mississippi State, Liberty, but anything else, I guess?
Yeah, I don't actually think that Liberty is going to have much of a chance against Mississippi State. I think just Mississippi State's got some athleticism and some size that Liberty's not going to really be able to do much with. I'm not really confident in Mississippi State, but Liberty, I don't think it's going to be able to hang. But, I mean, I would love to face Liberty because we've got, Virginia Tech looming down there. I actually think that this is where the East region is one of the more harder roads for Duke, just because I don't remember the exact stat, but I think I heard it when I was watching ESPN that there's only been like one other time in the last 20 years where a one seed has had to face a team that they've gotten beaten by in the regular season in the Sweet 16 or earlier. So although I'm not necessarily scared about the bottom half of the East, the top half, I mean, Virginia Tech, we don't know, what Justin Robinson, what he's going to be at. If he had not gotten injured, they may be a 2 or 3 seed. We don't know if he's going to necessarily be healthy or not, and how he's going to fit back in. I don't know how confident they are bringing him back. He's certainly a ball-dominant kind of player. We've seen ball-dominant players come back just for the tournament, and if that messes with the rhythm of the flow of the offense, I'm not sure. But I do think that they'll be able to get past St. Louis in the first game. I know that St. Louis has this Hassan French guy. I haven't watched any St. Louis this year, but I hear he's a real stud, although the team should get beaten pretty handily by Virginia Tech. So I think out of the top half, I'm more scared of Virginia Tech than anybody, just because, hey, Virginia Tech's beating us. Buzz Williams is a really good coach. But and if they've gotten the Sweet 16, that means Justin Robinson's gotten some more time to heal and get back in the flow of the offense. So that would be a really good game.
Yeah, I mean, their offense was completely based around Justin Robinson in terms of using him in ball screens and spreading everyone out with shooters. And they changed everything up once he was gone. And they were still obviously successful, but he adds a totally different dimension. So after not having him for as long as they haven't had him, now all of a sudden Blackshear, who's been, I've called him almost Wendell Carter light. He obviously doesn't have that Hulk strength of Carter, but he's just so versatile, so smart. He reminded me a lot of Wendell Carter's game. Alexander Walker, he might benefit more from Robinson, but I think you bring up a good point in terms of just not having him. How's that chemistry? The same thing is like I wonder about like Killian Tilly for Gonzaga, Dean Wade for Kansas State. And Bolden, that's why obviously he's not as high usage as the others, but I'd like him to get some early minutes. I mean, obviously I'm not comparing Bolden to someone like Kyrie Irving who came back and the chemistry through no fault of his own. It was just disrupted because of roles. I mean, so it's going to be interesting. Even a guy like Leaky Black for North Carolina, he is a defensive specialist. They haven't had him in a while, but UNC, their roles are very specified right now in the rotations. Roy's actually, he typically goes with a pretty big rotation. He's shortened that up more than typical this year, so it'll be interesting to see if they use him along with Sterling Manley, who just came back. So I always do find it interesting when guys come back right before or for the NCAA tournament. That's why it was so nice for Zion to get a couple games to get his legs under him, although now seeing how he was ready from the get-go, I don't think it would have made a difference. But, yeah, so an interesting stat for the East. 5 of the top 10 three-point defenses in the tourney are in the East. There is VCU at number 4, Minnesota number 6, North Carolina Central number 7, Duke number 9, and Belmont number 10. Also, 7 of the 10 worst three-point shooting teams in the tourney are in the East, including the bottom 4. Yeah, so Temple, number 59, I mean, as most people know, there's 68 teams. Temple, 59, LSU, 62, Minnesota, 63, North Carolina Central, 65, St. Louis, 66, Virginia Commonwealth, 67, and your own Duke Blue Devils, the worst three-point shooting team in the entire field, all the way back at number 68. And you had mentioned St. Louis. St. Louis, man, they are just they're so bad at shooting. It's pretty impressive. If you look at, let's see here. Let me find St. Louis. Here, their effective field. There's 353 teams in the country. Effective field goal percentage 322. 2-point field goal percentage 285. 3-point field goal percentage 327. And free throw, not the worst, but they are 352, second worst. So basically, guys, I don't think St. Louis shoots the ball very well. That's my big takeaway from St. Louis
hot
right
take.
there. I know it's a burning hot take when it's just, oh my God, those stats are so horrific. So you got, and we haven't even gotten into Central Florida, who they also can't shoot the ball, and it's just, I mean, there are some ugly, slow teams in this region of Dukes. So do you want to kind of start out with Central Florida, or let me go first? Whatever works best.
Yeah, I'll put some notes on Central Florida. I'm really excited about this game. I think it's going to be pretty close, although I do feel confident that UCF is going to win. VCU opened up as the favorite in this, but it's shifted over to UCF, and I think that has to do with Marcus Evans. They are thinking he'll be ready, but I think he's their best player, right? And he for sure won't be 100%. So I think that UCF is really going to let them shoot threes, but VCU is not a good three-point shooting team either. So they've got that Taco Fall guy, 7'6". He stops everything in the paint. I don't think that VCU is really going to be effective down there. So I really think that although these teams are very even, I mean, they're the 8-9 seeds for a reason, I do think that UCF is going to be playing Duke in the second round. And I'm pretty excited about that. Johnny Dawkins, Coach K, round 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, Coach K definitely isn't excited, but that doesn't mean fans can't be excited. So I talked about Mississippi State. Basically, everything they do well on offense, it's the opposite on defense. VCU, same exact thing. Exact same thing. They can't shoot at all. Like, at all. And, I mean, I think I said they were the second worst team just in front of Duke in three-point percentage. I mean, they're 330 in three-point percentage shooting. They are ranked 3 in three-point defense. They do shoot two-point percentage well. Not elite like Duke, but they do shoot well. It is kind of Duke related that they are 204 in free throw percentage. They're 330. This is the ranking in three-point percentage, and 52 in two-point percentage. Duke, their two-point percentage is like number 4 or something. So they are elite because once Zion and RJ get going downhill, nobody's going to be able to stop them. But VCU is like that. But VCU, they turn it over a ton, and that's again when you're talking about Duke, if you turn it over a ton, you're dead. You're dead meat right away. And offensive rebounding, they give up a lot. So it's the same exact issues I was talking about with Mississippi State that VCU might face. So that's why I would much rather face VCU than Central Florida. Like, much, much rather face
I don't
them.
know, man. I want to see Zion dunk on Taco.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that. But, yeah, I'm just saying what would be a better matchup. And
Yeah.
All right, so UCF, first of all, I want to say Aubrey Dawkins he wasn't able to play with his dad when his dad coached or play under his dad when his dad coached at Stanford. So it's really cool that he transferred from Michigan, and he's making a huge impact on their team. So that's really cool to see his big impact and playing for his dad, and I think that's just the type of thing you don't want to take for granted. Just how cool it is when guys can get to play under their father. So UCF, their 2-point field goal defense, which is Duke's strength, that, as you said, that will be the interesting kind of dichotomy if Duke does play them, because I do think that even though Christ Kamaji gets in foul trouble like 30 seconds in every game for Florida State, it's still not a total shock to face a guy who other teams might see, who's 7'6", and it's an intimidation factor.
Yeah.
Where Christ Kamaji, I think he's 7'4", but I mean, still, these are bigger than average kind of gentlemen. Yeah, I mean, I think Duke, they won't have an issue really taking it to him. And Taco Fall, this is not a 7'6" guy with a lot of beef on him, so he has been known to kind of. There's some games which he doesn't bring the physicality. And then there's his free throw rate. Because, I mean, you want to talk about, remember Hack-a-Shack, you can hack a Taco Tuesday again. Man, I wish they were playing on Tuesday, but because otherwise that joke made no sense. So I mean, you
sounded good.
It did. So their free throw rate's incredible because teams are hacking Taco Fall. So his free throw rate's awesome. What does he shoot? Like, I need to actually look. Does he shoot like 40% or something? It's something.
Less.
What does he shoot?
36%.
Yeah, I mean, are you kidding me? And that's a guy with a high.
Javin is going to have a field day fouling him.
Oh, Javin, it's his dream come true. When you're actually telling him, like, go in there and just hack away, Javin. I mean, because, like, that's what I do anyway. But, yeah, I mean, so that's going to be very, very interesting to, on offense, try to kind of get it into the paint against him. I think they're going to get him in foul trouble right away if that happens, and it won't be the type of interesting matchup many think. I mean, because, I mean, if you look at Taco Fall, just even a picture of him, then look at Zion, I feel like Zion might break him in half. And that could be, hey, you never know. Taco might, he might decide, you know what, I'm just going to, I don't know if you can really decide to just be physical against Zion, because when you're facing Zion, it's not really a choice. He's going to it's Zion. But
yeah, you may want to do that, but then you see him in person.
Yeah, and even if you try to be physical, it's still, there's only so much you can do. So, yeah, UCF, I mean, another interesting thing about them is that 8 out of their 12 non-freshmen are transfers and redshirts. So it's kind of interesting how Johnny Dawkins has blended the roster together. I think it's also been at least 10 years since they made the tournament. So it's a great achievement for him to have made it. Let's see here. Is there any stats? I mean, the possession length, they force you to play. I mean, this is what I'm saying about every damn team in this region is just slow and grinding. Yeah, so the Duke's going to have to work it around unless they can speed them up. And, I mean, when you have a guy like Taco Fall anchoring inside, and they do have another big guy, which I feel bad I'm not remembering his name, but they give up a lot of offensive rebounds as well. They're 29.5%, ranked 237. A team with guys that big inside, that shouldn't happen. So, yeah, I mean, as far as how that matchup would go, I don't know. I mean, I think Duke would be pretty dominant anyway, but I just think it would be easier on the eyes to see VCU. But either way, I think I would disagree. Well, you did say the top half was more scary. I don't think it'll be a problem for these first two rounds, but you never know. I mean, Coach K was asked how somebody brought up Virginia, and he was just saying you just take it one game at a time. You don't assume anything. And, I mean, these guys, it's their first game, so I'm sure they're not going to be thinking back to, let's say, like Iona last year and how that was pretty much after the first couple minutes, that was a blowout because they haven't experienced it. So their first time experiencing the NCAA tournament, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, so come out and just treat it like Kentucky where you're just out for blood. So, and by the way, Iona, like, that sucks, man. To be a 16 seed 2 years in a row, you get Duke and then you get North Carolina. That sucks. But so is there anything else you got about?
No, I really the only team that I'm scared of in the top half is Virginia Tech. That's what I meant because really I think that Virginia Tech, with Justin Robinson back healthy, if he is back healthy, I think that they might be the second best team, in the region. And it kind of sucks to have to play them in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, I predicted they would be. I predicted them tied with Duke for number 3 in the preseason, but that was with Chris Clark, who was dismissed from the team just before the season started. He was going to be my sixth man of the year. People forget how great he was in his role. And then Justin Robinson got hurt, so I thought it was a great job for them to still finish 4th. But it's going to be interesting because that is, I wouldn't say in my backyard, but I'm from right outside D.C. I live in Baltimore now. And that game will be in D.C., the DMV. Javin's from Virginia, but it's not technically the DMV. I forget exactly where he's from, but it's like 2.5 hours away. It's not Northern Virginia. Justin Robinson is from the DMV Manassas, so he's going to be bringing his pals. He's going to be bringing the support. Virginia Tech, obviously, they're not close, but they're a lot closer than Duke. So, and DC, guess where a lot of fans root for who in DC? Maryland. So I think a lot of people are just used to just hating Duke because they are Maryland fans. So they might come just to kind of scream at Duke. So it's going to be interesting. I think somebody, if they know Quinn Cook, tell Quinn Cook to call up a bunch of his DMV buddies and I guess just kind of bring a packed Duke section because otherwise it's going to be interesting. It may actually be, I wouldn't say a Virginia Tech home game because they don't have exactly a widespread fan base, but they have a legit fan base and it's closer. So you never know. I still remember 2006. I mean, it was just one of the most insane atmospheres I've ever seen with George Mason. That was when they beat UConn. It was just one of the most unbelievable environments I've ever seen. So, we'll see how it goes there. But, again, if anyone knows Quinn Cook, tell him to call up some of his DMV buddies for that one.
Yeah, hopefully Golden State has some off days there next weekend.
Yeah, well, if they don't, just tell him to call up his friends.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name? For the Pacers, Victor Oladipo. I mean, I hate to say it, he's injured, so maybe he can kind of come over because he has a big DMV influence also. So all the DMVers come in and I don't know why he would care about Duke because he is from Indiana. But at the same time, come on in. But yeah, so I mean that could be interesting with the possibility of Virginia Tech. We didn't mention really North Carolina Central, North Dakota State. I hate to do this. I don't really know what to say about them. I don't know about them.
Do we need to mention them?
We should, but I don't know what to say. But I just don't want to sound like I'm like looking past them, but in a way I kind of am. So yeah, all right. So I guess anything else from the region? St. Louis, they're a tough one to watch. So another one, defense first, and yeah, Liberty is the defense first. Mississippi State, talked about them. Mississippi State and VCU are comparable. Then the other three are just kind of will slog the game down. Man, what an ugly top half of Duke's region. Besides, I mean, sure. I think I'd be surprised unless, I mean, that's where the chemistry comes in, becomes a factor with Justin Robinson. They started out struggling without him, then they got used to him, and now all of a sudden he's back. So guys have to get used to roles without actually any previous games. In St. Louis, that's not going to really allow much offensive rhythm unless you can really speed St. Louis up. And St. Louis, while they are pretty much inept on offense, they play good defense. And San French, he's a quality player. So I don't know if Virginia Tech's going to be able to get any sort of rhythm. But that's pretty much, that sums up my thoughts on the top half of the region. And yeah. You got anything else on that?
Not on the top half, no.
All right, so other stuff from the region. Yale, that's a pretty cool. Yale they have talent. I think Yale is not just what you think of as your typical Ivy League team. That was one of those games early in the season when Duke played them. Duke came out sluggish in the first half, like they damn near did every time, and then Zion. He brought the energy, and they became the second half team. So in the first half, Miaoni. So he is a talented player. He's a pro. Maybe not in the NBA, maybe in Europe, but possibly the NBA. Either way, he is a professional player. He had 10 in the first half versus Duke. He got he picked up his second foul at the end of the first half, and then he picked up 2 more within the first couple minutes of the second half. And once he's out, that's a done deal. So. Yeah, but if he can stay in, I think that does hold some potential for an upset with let's see, I mean LSU, they love Tremont Waters. It's another one where it's tough because I had Jordan Sperber on a couple times and we talked about how mental stuff, how does that affect stats, and it's just impossible to know. So not having Will Wade, it's just you don't know how or whether that'll affect the team. So that's an interesting thing right there. The other game, Belmont/Temple versus Maryland. Everyone is picking Belmont. Most people are even picking Belmont over Maryland. But the Terps I do know about. The Terps are as talented as anyone. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose to whoever or lose the next round. But you know what? They have the talent they are the second most talented team in the other half of that region, along with Michigan State. So they have the talent to get there. So in those...
you wouldn't think Louisville was the second most talented team?
No. I think Maryland's much more talented. It's just Maryland's sloppy, that their offense is just... I don't know what Turgeon's calling half the time. I mean, I don't know what's going on. So Maryland against Belmont or Temple, and LSU, Yale. What you got on that?
So I think I agree with a lot of what you said. LSU, they lost their first game in the SEC tournament after the news about Will Wade, I think. So that's really just a crapshoot. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know if Yale is going to be able to upset them. I know that Yale's got some players, especially the Ivy League Player of the Year. But I don't know if they could lose the first game. They could lose the second game. So I think from those 4 teams, I'm going to have Maryland coming out of there. I don't necessarily know who Maryland's going to face, but that's who I'm going to go with just because LSU could lose at some point. I don't know how they're going to handle this situation. I also think they're kind of overseeded for being a 3 seed. They, I think 17 of their games that they won, or 17 of their games went to overtime, which is pretty crazy. So I think really a couple bounces the other way, LSU could definitely have a different kind of narrative to their season. So who knows? I can't necessarily project how the team's going to react without their coach. I can only assume it's going to be bad.
Okay, so Louisville, Minnesota, going back to narratives. I don't know. It's so tough to think the NCAA didn't know exactly what they were doing with that. Because come on, man. I mean,
yeah.
To have Pitino face Louisville, that's too much. That's too much.
I love it.
I mean, to say
he's going to be there, right?
Oh, I hope so. I mean, that's almost like must-see TV. How could they face those two teams randomly? I just don't know how that would happen. So I think that is pretty funny right there. But anyway, Louisville, they find a way to melt down. They've lost 8 of 10, 2 of 4 of those wins are against Notre Dame. But I will say, context at the same time, 2 of those losses are to UVA. 2 of those losses are to North Carolina. They lost to Cuse. So there was one bad loss at BC. But it's the way they lose these games. I think I went down 9 of their 13 losses. They were up by at least 7 points in the second half, and a lot of them double digits. This has been going on for 2 seasons. It's not just this year where they just blow leads. I mean, the game before Duke's comeback, I don't think many people realize they blew a 10-point lead against Syracuse with 8 minutes left. This is what they do. I mean, it started almost back when do you remember the Virginia game last year when Virginia came back against Louisville down 4 with 0.5 seconds left by some random act of whatever. It was insane. The Louisville has managed to blow leads that you just wouldn't think are possible. And if you look at different points in the second half this year, again, 9 of 13, they were up by comfortable margins, and they found ways to lose. But they've blown a bunch of leads lately, so I don't know. But Minnesota, they've basically crapped themselves down the stretch as well. So I don't know. I mean, they have Jordan Matthews, Amir Coffey, and pretty much no one else. So that's a pretty bad matchup right there of teams that are not doing so well. I mean, LSU. This is I don't know. I mean, I think we're so used to kind of looking at the reason, trying to figure out why it's unfair to Duke. I'm not saying you, meaning you specifically, or me specifically, everyone. This is Duke got yes, there's Virginia Tech and there's Michigan State. Besides that, I don't know, man. This is a pretty bracket, and especially the type of team. They are not exciting teams, and that's why everyone's kind of looking for Belmont to shock the world and do something, because there's just not really exciting teams going on. So I don't know. I mean, looking at the rest, you got Michigan State. You got they're playing Bradley. I don't know anything about Bradley. I see they're moving on. I don't see how Michigan State would have trouble with the winner of Louisville, Minnesota. And
the only thing I see is that Michigan State really went all out in the Big Ten tournament, and they're having to turn around. I know these are college guys a week off, but it'll be 5 games in 9 days for Michigan State. So with a team that I don't think is all as talented as what Izzo has had in the past, I think they could get slip up here. I don't know who would be by, if it's Minnesota, Louisville, or potentially Maryland. Now that we're talking about it, kind of raising some eyebrows in Maryland, but
I mean that narrative statistically, it has kind of been proven wrong about teams that play. They play all the games of their conference tournament and then go in. I think many think they're tired. I mean, there's obviously exceptions, what was it, Syracuse, and they played that 5 overtime Big East tournament game. That is extreme. But I think
these are college kids. These are 20-year-old. They're going to recover.
Yeah, and they're going to be playing every day. And I don't know. I think just statistically, more than just opinions, that has been proven wrong. So I understand what you mean. I think they are going to be fine. Michigan State, their biggest weakness last year, statistically, they were unbelievable in everything there was, except for two aspects. They turned it over, and they didn't turn you over. And that's why, even though they were better at every other team and everything, every game was close because they didn't get any free points. And that was fascinating. So I haven't honestly watched a lot of Michigan State. If Duke and Michigan State do advance to the second weekend for a possible Elite Eight meeting, obviously I'm going to look much more into Michigan State. Just looking real quick. Wow, that's actually interesting. It's the same thing this year. It's not quite as bad as last year, but they basically turn it over the average. The national average is 18.6% turnover rate. They turn it over 18.7. It's a tiny bit below. But they only turn other teams over 14.9. That is ranked 344 out of 353 teams. So they are just not getting free points. They have to work hard for everything. And the assist rate, 68.2%, that is number one in the country. So they're really having to earn it. I mean, Cassius Winston's unbelievable. He has to carry a huge load for them. So besides him, they really have to earn everything. But it does help to get Nick Ward back because they hadn't had him. And, he obviously makes a huge difference. He just came back for the conference tournament. So same thing as like Zion. Now he's got some legs under him. So not having him, that did affect everything. So now they got more of an inside presence. But still, it always worries me when you have to work so hard for points and you're just not getting anything easier. And that's when Duke struggles, when they have to work in that half court, which they're atrocious at. So, Michigan State, they are not Duke. They're not running off of non-turnovers. They're not running off of turnovers. So it's going to be interesting if Duke matches up there.
Certainly the narratives will fly around. K's beaten Izzo 13 out of 14 times. I mean, that is freaking nuts. And just it's January, February, Izzo, right? But not against K, apparently.
Matt Norlander, he wrote an article in 2017 when it was 11 out of 12, and he called it the gorilla stat, with stats that are just kind of just extreme. So, you're exactly right. It's 13 out of 14.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great matchup. I'd certainly love to see it because that means that Duke will be in the Elite Eight. And I certainly think that Cassius Winston, although he's pretty awesome, I do think that he could be contained by Duke's guards for sure. I mean, I think they're more athletic than Winston.
Okay, so before we get to some other stuff kind of around the bracket, all right, so possible narrative if you decide to look at it as one. Coach K's Duke team has been a number one seed 13 times. There's 4 titles, 2 runner-ups, there's a semifinal appearance, there's an Elite Eight, 5 Sweet 16s. So they have made the Final Four 7 out of 13 times. And with the one Elite Eight appearance, 98, that kind of brutal, I don't want to call it a choke, but I mean, Kentucky came back from a big deficit. That was a rough one. So out of the Sweet 16 losses, there's 5. If I told you that 4 of those occurred against 5 seeds, does that make you more nervous against Virginia Tech?
Possibly. I'm not one to believe in narratives, but I do think that the NCAA tournament is a good place to utilize historical data because supposedly, 5 seeds are like each other. So 5 seeds 10 years ago are around the same statistically, as they are today, right? And so you can kind of utilize some of that historical metric. And, it's going to be a completely different matchup. It's going to be a completely different team. It will be the same coach as far as Coach K and the same seed. So, depending on, the outliers there, it may be something to listen to.
All right. So if I told you that Duke, they are the most favored team going into the NCAA tournament since the last time Duke won the title, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's no other way to go about it. I mean, I've been surprised at the odds for Duke because although 41% of apparently ESPN brackets have Duke winning it. this year, and I think that the gambling odds kind of reflect that. But in no way do they actually have an actual 41% chance of winning it all. That's just not the way the tournament works.
So you think that's a good correlation?
I think anytime you're a gambling favorite, you want to be the favorite. That doesn't mean anything negative.
Okay, because the favorite in 2015 was Kentucky, so that just like basically explodes the narrative right there. So when Duke,
they got to the Final Four, right?
Yeah. So hey, if that's all you're looking for, you know what, you can take your ribbon and walk away. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but it's just interesting because everyone's all about that, and then you realize like they're the biggest favorite since they won the title, but they weren't the favorite that year. So it's interesting how it's like create your own narrative there. I always find that funny because it's just different fans see things in different ways. Here's a little quiz: if Duke wins it all, how many NCAA tournament wins would Coach K have? It is a very important number. I would not be asking this if it was like 74.
It would be. I would think he's in the 90s right now, right? As far as wins.
I don't know.
In the way that you're saying important, would that be 100?
That would be 100. He is at 94. 6 wins would put him at 100. So
that's too beautiful. It's got to happen.
All right, here's the question: do you think the players know that?
I think they will know it. They probably, I don't think that anybody bogs them down with that kind of stuff just because, you could do that all day with your coach and, that puts pressure on the players, that, takes their focus off of what they need to do. But when it comes down to it, if they are in the Final Four, that kind of stuff is going to be everywhere.
Duke with the 3-point shooting. It ain't pretty. Obviously, it's not pretty. So you look at their stats throughout the year. How much do you think it could affect it when you think about Florida State, Notre Dame, and Virginia? In those 3 games, all road games, they shot 34 of 64, 53.1%. And then when you just take from Texas Tech on, because that's when the schedule it wasn't just picking a random game and starting from there. It's when the schedule got consistently, I will say, legit. That's 23 games. In the other 20 games, they are 120 for 478. That is 25.1%. I mean, all in all, it's like around 30, and no team has advanced to the Final Four shooting 30%, or about that, what they are, 30%. So is that something you would consider to be legit in terms of how you think about Duke's chances reaching the Final Four?
Yeah, it's definitely something legit. I mean, it's been a legit concern of mine the entire season about their chances because when you are one-dimensional in the half court, it just makes teams, it makes you a lot easier to guard. I think another concerning thing is, and I don't have it pulled up, with their free throw percentage. I think it's pretty low, right? It's something like 69, 70% is what I maybe have seen. And it just sucks because, even when they can convert and get to the line, they're not necessarily converting those opportunities.
I mean, I really focus on the end of game, close games, because I think it's been 8 of them in the year. And 6 of them have been drastically affected by free throws. Gonzaga was actually on the other side where Gonzaga kind of crapped themselves, missing free throws. Virginia Tech was not affected. And what was the other one not affected? There was Louisville was not affected. So you look at the others. I mean, you have Syracuse, or before that, you have Florida State. Trey missed the front end of a 1-and-1 with a couple minutes left. But more importantly, RJ, he missed that free throw with 5 seconds left, and obviously nobody remembers it because Florida State fumbled it out of bounds, and then Cam Reddish hit the incredible game winner where they just the defense was but to miss.
Same thing with the Carolina game in the tournament. RJ Barrett missed both of the free throws.
Yep, and with Virginia, the first game in the second half, 11 for 22. Zion went 3 for 9. I mean, we think about that Syracuse game coming off Florida State where Trey was injured. They didn't have Cam. They had career highs from everybody pretty much. And, I mean, R.J. Barrett, he was shooting 50% in the second half. Then his legs died. He was like 1 for his last 18. Syracuse packed in their zone against Zion. But you know what? Zion still missed a free throw with 15 seconds left. You never know if Syracuse would have scored. I mean, they didn't score off the missed free throw. But if he had made that, Duke would have had the lead with 15 seconds left. So that was vital. Wake Forest, R.J. missed his last 5 free throws in that game. And, I mean, it's just when it keeps happening, then, yeah, the sample size gets big enough. As to what you were saying, I do have some in the KenPom era, which is Ken Pomeroy from 2002 on. Their free throw, if they win, their free throw percentage would be the second worst of the KenPom era. Somehow, I don't understand. That was just a weird year too when UConn won it. UConn wasn't even a good team. They had a 62% free throw percentage. That is awful. But yeah, so Duke's second, if they are to win, their 69% would be second worst. Their 3-point field goal percentage would be the worst. Then you have their 3-point field goal percentage defense would be the third best, behind actually Duke 2010 and Florida 2007. Their steal percentage would be fourth best. Block percentage, fifth best. Adjusted defensive efficiency, fourth best. The experience would be the lowest experience of any champion, and their minutes continuity one season to the next, also the lowest. So it's interesting. They are a very different type of team, obviously, than most, especially when you consider we're in the era of basketball when it's pace and space, and everyone can shoot, like no matter what position. And Duke, somehow no one can shoot. That's why I'm saying Cam Reddish the whole year. I've said from the season preview pod, he's the X factor. Bottom line, if he can consistently hit in a game, Duke's unbeatable. They're winning the championship. He's only done that versus FSU, versus Florida State, and then the first UNC game, but a lot of those occurred in garbage time. That's it. It's typically when he does get hot, it's for one half, and then falls off one way or the other. And it's just, if he can get consistent, it's such a difference maker. And that's why, like, at the end of Florida State, the ACC championship, he made that three-pointer and just his teammates went wild. And you could, like, it's the same way when it's in Cameron, where you can feel the energy lift up. Everyone's rooting for him to do so well, and that's great to see because, I mean, just shooting-wise, it hasn't been an easy year for him. And he's still contributed in many areas. His defense really aggressive, and he's one of the main reasons why Duke can push. It's not just Trey, it's Cam who helps Duke be able to push off everything. Having 4 guys who you don't have to find one outlet. It doesn't have to be just Trey. You get that rebound, any of 4 dudes can bring the ball up themselves, and that saves time. I mean, something as simple as that. And with Duke's inept half-court offense, just Coach K's ability to align the half-court sets where RJ is able to get downhill going left to right. Little things like that are huge because Duke is so awful at shooting. They are something like 345 out of 353 teams in catch-and-shoot jumpers, and it's not some narrative or soft narrative. It's not random. They're not a good shooting team. It's just about time we accept that, and it'll be great if Cam can get hot because, again, Duke will be unbeatable. But I think at this point it's kind of hoping Duke has a third scorer rather than assuming Cam will always be the third scorer, which was another reason it was nice to see Trey. He had a big scoring second half versus Florida State. So, yeah, Duke's stats, I mean, it makes for a really interesting kind of perception of how Duke is going into the tournament, and I think people are avoiding the deficiencies of Duke because pretty much they will speed you up and they will find ways to score on the break, and they will not play a lot of half court offense, and they also have Zion Williamson and other teams don't.
A lot of great points there, and certainly some things to be concerned about, but you're right. It comes down to just being a better team as far as defense goes, and then pushing in transition when you can, and utilizing your athleticism and just going and getting buckets.
Yeah, I mean, the athleticism is huge because, I mean, yeah, the teams, they communicate better than the recent young teams. They have improved on their switches and their rotations on defense. Their transition defense is still too often. That's another thing that Goldwire has been huge at getting back in transition. But, I mean, they basically cover up for still. They're making mistakes. It's just, as you said, the athleticism. They can make up for it. And that's just something it covers up. And everyone is going to say, oh, Duke, they communicate so well. They're so much, they're a team, they're brothers and everything. It's like, no, they're just like incredibly athletic. And I'm not trying to take anything away. They do communicate well. They do. It is kind of, they work together, symbiotic. But at the same time, the video doesn't lie. They're just like blatantly missing switches and not rotating, and then all of a sudden you see like Cam Reddish come flying in for a steal, or Zion Williamson block DeAndre Hunter from like across like the highway, and these are not plays that other teams can make. So yeah, I mean, is it so? Let's real quickly other things in the bracket that maybe have our attention. Just quick storylines, then we won't go over everything, just like maybe we can pick a Final Four, possible Final Four and winner if you want. But in terms of other, maybe, let's see here, other
some of those first rounds of games I'm really looking forward to is Murray State and Marquette. Seeing those two guys, Marcus Howard, Ja Morant, go at it, that's going to be probably one of the best games of the tournament, just plain and simple. Just enjoying the fun, the madness. We know it's going to be, I think you mentioned it, it's a single elimination tournament. That's why that we have Cinderellas, right? And so, and you can't predict them. So just enjoying that.
Yeah, I mean, that game kind of reminds me of last year, Colin Sexton versus Justin Robinson with Virginia Tech, Alabama first round. That game was wild. So this could be the same thing. But you know what, Marquette, they're so reliant on three-point shooting. And Murray State, their three-point defense is amazing. So I don't know. I mean, I thought Marquette was a bit over, was seeded a bit generously. So we'll see how that goes. And Ja Morant is my Lord and Savior, who I was the first to kind of be on that. I mean, not obviously the first, but I was basically reaching out to every single, I do a lot of draft stuff. I was reaching out to everyone. No one cared. It was January of last year when nobody really was talking about him. I was saying he's going to be a superstar, and then all of a sudden now, Ja Morant is the greatest thing since sliced bread. So you know what? That is my bitterness speaking, but hey, I was there. But let's see, anything else we got? I would say UC Irvine. They're a really impressive mid-major. They're playing Kansas State. I mentioned Dean Wade before coming back, so they're and I'm not sure he's totally healthy, so that might affect things. New Mexico State's another fantastic mid-major. They play Auburn. I think those are some kind of that, along with Liberty, Mississippi State, Belmont, over possibly Maryland. Those are some of the more obvious, I would say, national possible predictions that are going around. I will also say, just because of the entire season, I've said Florida State has an equal chance of winning a national championship and getting blown out in the first round. For that reason, I will say Vermont over FSU is a possibility.
Wow.
Just because I do not trust Florida State. I don't know who even plays for Vermont. I do not trust Florida State. But at the same time... Huh?
Anthony Lamb. He's actually really good for Vermont. He's their one guy.
He's my favorite player. I've talked him up nonstop. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, I mean, so Florida State, it's just about you never know. Although... They're more consistent lately. Cabangeli, he's the one guy that I would say requires more scouting than other teams. But you never know. It's great that they have so many weapons, I guess. But at the same time, it's tough because you don't know where the points are coming from if you're Florida State. And I don't know. It's just if you need a bucket, who are you going to? It's the same thing kind of like, I don't know. It's just... I
That's
wouldn't
a
be
good point.
surprised.
I mean, they could lose in the first round, or they could beat Gonzaga. You know.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they have some experience beating Gonzaga before. When Killian Tilly, all of a sudden, we found out he was gone, and then Florida State, they really didn't have much trouble last year. They beat them by like 15. So
Something like
it's
that.
it's
Yeah.
very interesting. They stuck them in the same region again. St. Mary's over Nova. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Old Dominion, I like them. I like them a lot. Carson Edwards, I think he has his back's been giving him some issues. And then just because as a Towson grad I got to rep my CAA, Northeastern over Kansas. I said it first. Northeastern, who they have? I don't even. They have one guy. He's pretty good. That's all I have to say about that. He's a shooter. You know, the fact that I'm like everyone knows I'm looking it up now pretty much makes my entire point about them insignificant. But I'm still saying Northeastern over Kansas. You heard it here first. All right. So besides that, is there any team you would say could maybe make a run more than the second round, maybe even more than the Sweet 16?
Yeah, I like UC Irvine. I mean, I don't think Oregon and Wisconsin, who would be their second round matchup, are really strong teams. And I like the team from what I see. I think I've only seen one of their games and some other highlights, but they seem to be pretty confident and like a deep team that has some dudes. So I'd love to see UC Irvine come out of that and then, potentially play, what would it be, Villanova and Purdue. So I like that upset pick. I know I've heard a couple people suggest the same kind of pick, which, you don't necessarily want a trendy underdog, but some of the trendy underdogs are going to hit. So we'll see. I also like the Wofford and Seton Hall game. I'd love to see Wofford advance. Fletcher McGee, I think he could surpass the three-point makes ever for an NCAA Division I in the tournament. So that could be pretty exciting.
Yeah, although I will say Miles Powell, he's the type of dude that can carry a team. Like he's very underrated. He's very underrated nationally. Buffalo, Arizona State. If Bobby Hurley wins his first four, that would be a fun up-tempo game. And again, hey, the NCAA, I'm sure they don't think about narratives, do they? With Nate Oates getting his start with Bobby Hurley, that's not a narrative there. But Luke Wensdorf, natural-born scorer, Remy Martin, great defender, Cheatham, double machine. But Buffalo, they are just, I love them. CJ.
Yeah, I haven't seen their games, but I feel like they're really good, right? Yeah,
CJ
I've heard of CJ
Massenberg.
Massenberg.
One of his first breakout games, I think it was his freshman year against Duke at Cameron, and he's been so kind of up and down, lacking consistency. This year, he's really stayed consistent, and when he doesn't put up big numbers, it's just because that's not what the team needed at the time. I love Buffalo, and pace and space, they're everything you'd want with that. I guess outside of that, you want to give me. You can just go straight to Final Four. Obviously, this is just random. I think it's funny when it's like expert picks for
I'm not an
sites.
expert.
But it doesn't matter. Like nobody's an expert when it comes to this type of stuff. Like,
You're right.
And then you look at the expert picks, and they're even telling you they're just like, this is random. There's no expert picks for anything. You look at NFL, college football. Like when it's just one game, you don't know. Like it's obviously easier when it's like the NBA when it's a best of 7 and there's more of a sample size. I think it's very interesting when people say, oh, college, it's more exciting than the NBA. And you know what? What if the NBA was only, let's say, the season was split in half, 41 games, and the playoff series were best of 5. Yeah, obviously it would be more exciting. They even make it best of 3. So that's not pro-college, negative college, pro-NBA, negative NBA. It's just very interesting the way that people, depending on what they already kind of want to push on others, it's just kind of confirmation bias in terms of how they look at it, but it's just a totally different game. I never like the college versus NBA kind of debate because it's a totally different type of game. But anyways, so who you got coming out of the East? I assume you're taking Liberty.
Right. Yeah, I've got actually Liberty over. No, yeah, definitely. I'm taking Duke. Just I like the road, and I think if they can get past, I think we've already touched on it, but just if they can get past Virginia Tech, I think they've got a good chance of coming out of that region.
All right. Yeah, I'll go Duke. With the West, Gonzaga's region.
So here's where I don't know what to do. I've got Florida State and Gonzaga together, and I think that I want to take Florida State to win the region. I don't want to be too like ACC biased, but I don't want to have all 1 seeds. So, and I don't like anybody from the bottom half of that bracket actually doing
it. At least you're
damage.
Honest, saying you're just doing it because you don't want all 1 seeds. You're not trying to just make it up. Yeah, I mean, well, actually, you know what an interesting matchup would be Buffalo, Texas Tech. I mean, you got pace and space versus
that'd be a good game. Yeah.
No space, no pace, and yeah, that would be interesting right there. I mean, Jarrett Culver, he's been a stud the whole year. Michigan, when their offense is going, I mean, that's really interesting because John Beilein, he's always known as the offensive guy, and now this year they can struggle at times on offense. Their defense is on point. Wow, that's a really I mean Gonzaga. Yeah, I mean all year I've loved them. There's no reason not to go with them. It would just be trying to not go with them. I mean, I think many will look at their loss to St. Mary's and say, "Oh, look, see, I told you." I think that actually probably helps them because when you don't play a competitive game in a while, you can get a little lackadaisical. I'm not saying the St. Mary's didn't deserve to win that, but I mean, Gonzaga is just such a. I mean, it's just beautiful basketball. I actually, after that Duke Gonzaga game, I kind of filmed a lot of stuff and I just watch it back. The way they ball screen the hell out of Duke, I haven't seen any other team do it like they did. I mean, they are just poetry in motion, and I think it was just an awful game against St. Mary's. That pretty much that. Yeah, I'm willing to just say screw that game, and I will take their resume over 1 game. So yeah, Duke Gonzaga 2-1 seeds. I'm good with it. So let's see. Whoops, I just lost the bracket. All right. So next region is South. Virginia. Are they going to be able to get out of the first round? I mean, yeah, I think most know that they've lost 2 out of 3 in Charlotte. So it's at least they are not placed there. And I mean, it's so stupid. They didn't have DeAndre Hunter last year. Nobody's willing to say that. That affected the entire thing. So as long as somebody doesn't get hurt, they're not going to have trouble getting past the first round. Or Ole Miss, Oklahoma. I know nothing about either of those teams. So on Virginia with that. Kansas State, UC Irvine, Wisconsin, Oregon. My God, what is this?
Yeah, I think Virginia's got a pretty easy road.
Villanova, St. Mary's, Purdue. Oh my God. Okay, Virginia's they're in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think they've got a good chance this year at kind of redemption tour winning it all.
I would say Cincinnati or Iowa might be able to give Tennessee a problem.
Agreed.
Iowa, I think they've kind of fallen off. I liked them at the beginning of the year. Cincinnati, I love the way Mick Cronin just throws in crazy defenses all the time. Nobody has any idea what kind of defense he's running. He does that better than anyone. So I think he's the type who could kind of screw with the opponent, especially on short rest. Or not short rest, but like not much time to prepare for Tennessee. I think, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cincinnati make a run there. So, yeah, I'm going with Virginia, though.
Yeah, same. And definitely see Cincinnati and Tennessee being a good game.
Oh my
Cincinnati's
God,
super physical.
I'm doing it. I've never done this in my life. I'm going 4 number 1s.
I don't want to, especially now that I've got 3 ACC teams. But I don't know who to pick out of that South region, the Midwest with Carolina and Kentucky. I haven't even filled out that bracket.
You know what's funny? My preseason national championship, was North Carolina over Kentucky.
I don't know about you, but I honestly would not be excited to play UNC again.
I've heard that, and I don't understand it. Why?
Just because they've got some older dudes, man. They're just they've got.
Oh, you're just talking about basketball wise. Okay, I've heard that people just like they don't like they wouldn't just like to play them, and I'm just like, why? I don't get that.
I'm just talking about this year, just because of their leaders being seniors and just the experience. I don't know. I mean, it would be freaking awesome. I just may have so many almost heart attacks for the 2 days in between.
You know, I remember I picked Duke and North Carolina to get to the final another year. To play each other in the final. Neither team even made the Final Four. That was 2000.
Don't do that ever again.
That was 2011. So, you know what? I think actually UNC lost to Kentucky that year. So that was funny.
Yeah, I don't know who to take from that though. I mean, I think the top seeds are really strong there. I don't necessarily want to pick UNC or Kentucky coming out of there, but I don't necessarily know who else I would feel confident in making a run out of that region.
Iowa State, they're no joke, man. And you know what? Houston's no joke. Houston's really good. Really good.
See, Houston's only lost 3 games all season, right?
That bottom half of the Midwest is impressive.
And Iowa State's been hot. That could be a really good game this Sweet 16, and potentially knocking off Kentucky while Carolina has a cakewalk into the Elite Eight. I mean, I guess Kansas is nothing, but I mean, they're just not that strong this year, I don't think.
All right, so who are you going with out of the Midwest?
I don't know. You're gonna make me pick.
Might as well. I mean, if we're doing this, because this is vital.
I think I'd take Kentucky.
All right, so we both chose Gonzaga, right? Or did
no,
we?
I took Florida State.
Okay, so you have Duke, Florida State, Kentucky, and Virginia. I have all the number ones, which I've never done. So that actually allows me to think I am being different. All right, so I have Duke, Gonzaga. You have Duke, Florida State. You can go first on that one. Rematch of the ACC championship.
So I definitely think Duke advances here. I would have them advancing over Gonzaga. Kind of my philosophy here, though, is that because 41% are taking Duke to win it all, if I'm actually kind of playing to win a pool, I don't take that team. Would probably have me taking Virginia in this kind of scenario over Duke, even though would never want that to happen. But I just think it maximizes your chances of winning a pool. Now, if it's for bragging rights, it's Duke all the way, baby.
If it's just based on basketball, if it's just based on the team, on the two teams playing, I'm going Gonzaga because the only reason to go Duke would just be Zion, is then they're going to find a way. But if I'm actually looking at it basketball-wise, Gonzaga would be the pick. Having said that, I still think Duke can find a way, but I'm making the pick just in terms of basketball terms, while obviously wanting Duke to win. And, so I'm going Gonzaga.
What do you think about that coaching matchup with Few and K?
You know what? You're actually going to like I didn't even realize this. You know what? It's funny because I thought there was 3 teams that stood out above and beyond. I was incorrect in not believing Wisconsin as much as I should in 2015. I thought it was Kentucky was the best. I thought Gonzaga was the second best, and I thought Duke was the third best that year. And then because I thought Gonzaga was going to speed Duke up, and I didn't know if Duke would be able to continuously run with them, and Duke slowed them down to a crawl. And it was just when they did that, when they really played that, when they forced a slower tempo on Gonzaga and they were so efficient, that immediately, like, I was like, you know what, they can't lose from now on. With how well they looked. I remember Matt Jones was hitting huge. He had a couple huge threes that game, and so the last time those teams matched up, I predicted Gonzaga there. So maybe I'm just an in the closet Gonzaga fan. Who knows? But Duke won the national championship, so hey, maybe the same thing will happen. But to answer your specific question, that's a hell of a coaching matchup.
For sure.
All right, so what you got? You got Virginia and Kentucky.
Yeah, so I've got Virginia over Kentucky and eventually beating Duke. That'll be kind of how my bracket plays out. I know we didn't go over a lot of the specifics on how we're getting there and necessarily who's going to come out of the Midwest, but I'm probably going to take Virginia in all of my brackets.
Wow, North Carolina and Virginia. Well, that's Gonzaga beats whoever. Gonzaga's my champion.
If they're beating Duke, then I mean.
I guess I'll go Virginia. Yeah.
That would be a hell of a game.
Yeah, I think North Carolina would be a more fun final to watch because obviously more pace. But I think Virginia, they have shown the ability to slow down North Carolina and play at their own tempo. And you slow down North Carolina, they still are very underrated in their efficiency in half court. But especially, I mean, I've said many times, I think they're the best shooting team under Roy. And the only argument really is like the 2005 team, but they're fantastic passers, and they want to run, especially with the way Roy's designed everything around Kobe White. But they actually don't have to run. They do all the time. And Luke May, he's sacrificed his role a lot for the benefit of the team. Cam Johnson, incredibly efficient. And I think the most underrated player on Carolina right now, doesn't get nearly enough attention, is Garrison Brooks with what he does in transition and offensive rebound on the glass. I mean, that is just a perfect kind of glue guy for North Carolina. But I mean, Gonzaga, they don't have weaknesses. And obviously, the last time anyone saw them, there was plenty of weaknesses. But again, I'm willing to just call that an outlier.
Yeah, true.
All right, so
it'll be fun.
Is there anything else you want to kind of throw in an opinion, a burning hot take about the NCAA tournament? Are you predicting any 16s have a possibility of beating a 1? NC Central with LaVelle Moton?
No, I'm projecting complete chalk.
Okay, I'm just saying, would any 16, if you had to pick one to have more of a chance than the other? Than any other, what would it be?
I mean, I'm going to say Iona, maybe because I just want it to happen.
Because they got crushed by Duke. You don't want them to get crushed again. That's funny.
Yeah, that's the only reason, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with them playing Carolina.
Yeah, I don't see any way any of these 16s come close. But again, I don't really... since I live in Baltimore, I had seen UMBC and Jairus Lyles, and I tweeted out when the bracket was released. I said if UMBC was going against any one seed but Virginia, I would think they'd have a legit chance. And then they beat Virginia. So who knows? You never know what's going to happen.
You almost caught it on the nose, but
almost. But you never know, and that's what makes this a good time. And I had a good time on this one. And Jordan, thanks so much for joining me. I'd love to have you again. And it was kind of cool just to go over everything, to get another opinion. And this is really, after this pod, then it's kind of down to the nitty-gritty with Duke. So if you want to come back and talk actual games, previews, players, then it's kind of less takes, more what is actually analysis and what is going on. But this was a great time. Thanks so much for joining me again, Jordan.
Yeah, it was my pleasure chopping it up with you.
All right, and Duke fans, you'll be hearing from me plenty over, hopefully, the next 3 weeks. So I will be be talking to